You should avoid fruit. That's what many people with diabetes are told. Too much sugar, too many carbs, too risky. But here's the problem. That advice is incomplete. Fruit contains natural sugar, yes, but it also contains fiber, water, antioxidants, and plant compounds that can actually support metabolic health. So the real question isn't, can diabetics eat fruit? The better question is, which fruits are safest and how should they be eaten? If you've ever stood in the grocery aisle wondering whether apples are okay, or if bananas will spike your blood sugar, or if berries are truly better, you're not alone. Blood sugar management isn't about eliminating foods, it's about understanding how your body responds to them. This is where the glycemic index, GI, becomes useful. The glycemic index measures how quickly a food raises your blood sugar compared to pure glucose. Lower GI foods raise blood sugar more slowly. Higher GI foods raise it faster. And that speed matters. In this article, you'll learn what the glycemic index really means and what it doesn't. The 10 best fruits for diabetics, ranked from lowest to higher GI. How ripeness changes blood sugar impact. The smartest way to eat fruit to avoid spikes, when even healthy fruit can backfire. Fruit isn't the enemy. Unstructured fruit intake is. Let's start with the safest options, the fruits that cause the slowest rise in blood sugar. Tier 1, the lowest GI fruits, the safest starting point. If you're nervous about fruit, start here. These are the fruits that raise blood sugar the slowest. Gentle, predictable, manageable. Not sugar bombs, but controlled releases. Here are the lowest glycemic index options. Cherries, GI approximately 20. Grapefruit, GI approximately 25. Apples, GI approximately 36. Pears, GI approximately 38. These fruits fall into the low GI category, 55 or less, and that matters. When blood sugar rises slowly, your pancreas doesn't have to rush. There's less insulin demand, less stress on the system, less dramatic spike and crash. For people managing type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, or prediabetes, slower glucose absorption can mean more stable post-meal numbers, fewer energy dips, better long-term A1C control. It's not just about sugar content, it's about speed. Why these fruits work. These fruits share 3 important traits: high fiber, high water content, intact natural structure. Take apples and pears, for example. Their soluble fiber, especially pectin, slows digestion. Cherries contain anthocyanins, plant compounds linked to improved insulin sensitivity. Grapefruit has a low carbohydrate density and high water content, which dilutes its glycemic impact. In simple terms, fiber acts like a traffic controller for sugar. Instead of glucose flooding your bloodstream all at once, it enters gradually. Practical application: how to eat them. Even low GI fruits require structure. Here's how to use them strategically. Stick to 1/2 to 1 cup per serving. Keep the skin on, especially apples and pears. Pair with protein, nuts, Greek yogurt, seeds. Eat after or with a meal, not alone on an empty stomach. Avoid juicing. Whole fruit is very different from fruit juice. Juice removes fiber. Fiber is the control mechanism. No fiber equals faster spike. What's happening in the body? When you eat a whole apple, digestion takes time. Fiber slows gastric emptying. Carbohydrates break down gradually. Glucose enters the bloodstream steadily. Your insulin response becomes smoother. Think of it like a dimmer switch, not a light switch. With low GI fruits, blood sugar rises in a curve, not a cliff. That curve is easier to manage. Who these are best for? These fruits are ideal for newly diagnosed diabetics, seniors with slower metabolism, people with high fasting glucose, anyone testing new foods with a CGM, those working on reducing post-meal spikes. If your numbers are currently unstable, this tier is your safest starting point. What doctors observe. In clinical practice, patients who replace high-sugar snacks with low GI fruits often see improved post-meal glucose control, reduced cravings, better dietary consistency. Nutrition research consistently shows that whole, fiber-rich fruits are associated with better metabolic outcomes, not worse. The problem isn't fruit, it's portion size and processing. Low GI fruits aren't dangerous, they're strategic. Start here. control the response. Tier 2, moderate GI but powerful for metabolic health. These fruits are slightly sweeter, slightly higher on the glycemic index, and often misunderstood. Because here's the truth, not all moderate GI fruits are risky. Some are metabolically protective. Used correctly, they don't just avoid harm. They may actually support blood sugar control long term. Here's this tier. 5. Oranges. GI approximately 40 to 45. 6. Strawberries. GI approximately 41. 7. Blueberries. GI approximately 53. Still in the low to moderate range. Still safe when structured properly. Blood sugar control isn't just about preventing spikes today. It's about protecting your insulin sensitivity for years. Chronic inflammation and oxidative stress worsen diabetes over time. They damage blood vessels. They strain the pancreas. And this is where these fruits shine. They're rich in antioxidants, rich in vitamin C, rich in polyphenols, which means they don't just affect glucose, they affect the environment around glucose. What makes them different? Strawberries and blueberries contain anthocyanins, compounds linked to improved insulin signaling. Oranges contain hesperidin and vitamin C, which support vascular health and reduce oxidative stress. In simple terms, these fruits may help your cells respond better to insulin over time. That's powerful. But there's a condition. They must be eaten whole, not juiced, not blended into oversized smoothies, not dried and concentrated. Structure matters. Practical application, how to use them safely. Follow these rules. Keep portions to 3/4 to 1 cup of berries. Eat 1 whole orange, not orange juice. Pair fruit with protein or fat, nuts, seeds, yogurt. Avoid drinking fruit calories. Don't stack multiple fruits in one sitting. Smoothies are where most people go wrong. Blending breaks down fiber structure. Large smoothie portions can contain 2 to 3 servings of fruit. That changes the glycemic impact dramatically. Whole fruit slows you down. Liquid fruit speeds you up. What's happening in the body? When you eat berries, the fiber slows carbohydrate absorption. Meanwhile, antioxidants help reduce inflammation in blood vessels. Insulin receptors on your cells function better in a lower inflammatory environment. Think of it like cleaning rust off a lock. The key, insulin, works more smoothly. This doesn't mean berries are medicine, but metabolically, they're supportive. And that support adds up over time. Who this tier is best for? These fruits are ideal for people with fairly stable glucose control. Those focusing on heart health, diabetes increases cardiovascular risk. Active individuals. Anyone aiming to improve long-term insulin sensitivity. If your fasting glucose is consistently high or you're struggling with major spikes, start with Tier 1 first. Then graduate to this tier once your numbers stabilize. What clinical observation suggests? Doctors often notice that patients who regularly consume berries in controlled portions show improved post-meal readings, lower inflammatory markers, better long-term dietary adherence. Because berries satisfy sweet cravings without extreme glycemic consequences. It's not about sweetness, it's about structure and compounds. These fruits aren't risky, they're powerful when portioned properly. Moderate GI doesn't mean moderate value, it means measured strategy. Tier 3, higher natural sugar where portion control becomes everything. These are the fruits people fear most. Bananas, mangoes, pineapple. They're too sugary. They'll spike my blood sugar. But here's the truth. They're not forbidden, they're conditional. And the difference between safe and spike often comes down to one word: portion. Here's this tier. 8. Banana, GSB, approximately 51 to 62, depending on ripeness. 9. Mango, GI, approximately 51 to 60. 10. Pineapple, GI approximately 59 to 65. Notice something? They're not dramatically higher, but they digest faster. And they're easier to overeat. That's where problems start. Higher GI fruits raise blood sugar more quickly. That means faster glucose absorption, higher insulin demand, greater chance of a post-meal spike. For someone with insulin resistance, that rapid demand can overwhelm the system. And when spikes become frequent, over time they can increase A1C, worsen insulin resistance, increase cravings and crashes. It's not the fruit alone, it's the speed and volume. The ripeness factor, especially for bananas. This is where it gets interesting. A slightly green banana contains more resistant starch. Resistant starch digests slowly. As the banana ripens, starch converts into simple sugars. Sweeter taste equals faster glucose rise. Same fruit. Different metabolic response. Mango and pineapple behave similarly. The riper and softer they are, the faster they digest. Ripeness changes impact. Practical application: how to eat them safely. If you choose fruits from this tier, structure matters even more. Follow these rules. Limit to 1/2 cup mango or pineapple. Choose small bananas or eat half. Opt for slightly less ripe bananas. Always pair with protein or fat. Eat after a meal, never alone. Avoid fruit smoothies with these fruits. Never combine multiple high-sugar fruits in one sitting. That multiplies the effect. Context controls outcome. What's happening in the body? Higher GI fruits break down quickly. Glucose enters the bloodstream faster. Your pancreas must release insulin quickly to manage the surge. If insulin response is delayed or insufficient, blood sugar rises higher. Think of it like pouring water into a funnel. Pour slowly, it drains smoothly. Pour too fast, it overflows. Your bloodstream is that funnel. When glucose floods in rapidly, spikes occur. But when the portion is small and paired properly, the funnel can handle it. Who should be more cautious? This tier requires extra awareness if you use insulin, have high post-meal spikes already, have an A1C above target. Notice reactive crashes after sweet foods. These fruits are not ideal during periods of uncontrolled hyperglycemia. Stability first. Flexibility later. What doctors commonly observe? Patients who eat large portions of mango, pineapple, or ripe bananas often report higher post-meal readings, faster glucose swings, increased cravings afterward, but when portion is reduced and paired with protein, the spike often becomes manageable. The fruit didn't change. The strategy did. Higher GI fruit isn't off limits. It's measured, not eliminated, but controlled. How to eat fruit without spiking your blood sugar. Fruit isn't the problem. Timing is, pairing is, portion size is. Most blood sugar spikes blamed on fruit don't happen because someone ate an apple. They happen because fruit was eaten alone, eaten in large portions, blended into a smoothie, turned into juice, combined with other fast-digesting carbs. That's where things go wrong. Let's fix that. Why this matters. Even low GI fruit can cause a spike if eaten in the wrong context. Your body doesn't just respond to what you eat. It responds to what you eat it with, how fast it digests. Your current blood sugar level, your insulin sensitivity, same fruit, different outcome. Structure determines response. The 5 rules for eating fruit safely. 1. Pair fruit with protein or fat. Add a handful of nuts, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, chia, or flax seeds. Protein and fat slow digestion. Slower digestion equals slower glucose entry. 2. Eat fruit after a meal, not alone. When fruit follows a balanced meal, gastric emptying slows. Carbohydrate absorption spreads out. Glucose rise becomes smoother. Fruit on an empty stomach, faster spike. Fruit after lunch, more stable curve. 3. Choose whole fruit over juice. Juicing removes fiber. Fiber is your natural glucose regulator. A whole orange digests slowly. Orange juice digests fast. Same fruit, completely different effect. Even 100% juice can spike blood sugar quickly. Whole fruit always wins. 4. Be careful with smoothies. Blending breaks down structure, and most smoothies contain multiple servings of fruit. 1 banana, a cup of berries, mango chunks. That's 3 to 4 servings in minutes. You wouldn't eat that whole bowl of fruit at once, but you can drink it easily. Liquid calories are absorbed faster. Structure matters. 5. Watch portion size. Even low GI fruit becomes high impact in large amounts. Stick to 1/2 to 1 cup berries. 1 small apple or pear, 1 small orange, 1/2 banana. More isn't better. Consistency is better. What's happening in the body? When fruit is paired with protein or fat, digestion slows. Glucose enters gradually. Insulin response becomes controlled instead of reactive. When fruit is consumed alone, especially in liquid form, glucose floods in quickly. Insulin spikes. Blood sugar rises, then may crash. Think of it like traffic flow. With structure? Smooth highway. Without structure? Rush hour pileup. Your bloodstream prefers smooth traffic. Who this strategy is for. These rules apply to type 2 diabetics, pre-diabetics, seniors with slower metabolism, anyone monitoring glucose with a CGM, people trying to lower A1C. If you're on insulin, pairing and timing become even more important. Fruit can be included, but it must be predictable. What clinical practice shows? Doctors consistently observe that patients who eat whole fruit, pair with protein, control portions, experience fewer glucose spikes than those who drink fruit, snack on fruit alone, overconsume high sugar varieties. It's not about removing fruit, it's about managing its delivery system. Fruit spikes aren't caused by fruit alone. They're caused by context. Control the context, control the curve. Reality check. Glycemic index isn't the whole story. Here's where most people get confused. They see a number, they rank fruit, they assume the job is done. But the glycemic index is only part of the picture, not the full story. Because your blood sugar response isn't determined by a chart, it's determined by your body. 2 people can eat the same apple. One sees a mild rise, the other sees a sharp spike. Same fruit, different biology. If you rely only on GI rankings, you may miss what actually drives your numbers. And that's where frustration begins. I followed the list. Why did I spike? Because blood sugar regulation is influenced by insulin sensitivity, gut microbiome, stress levels, sleep quality, activity level, medication timing, meal composition. GI doesn't account for those variables. It measures food in isolation, but you never eat food in isolation. Glycemic index versus glycemic load. This is important. The glycemic index measures speed. Glycemic load measures speed and amount. For example, a watermelon has a high GI, but it contains very little carbohydrate per serving, so its glycemic load is actually low. Meanwhile, a large portion of low GI fruit can still raise blood sugar significantly. Portion always matters. Speed plus quantity equals total impact. Individual variability is real. Emerging metabolic research shows that glucose responses vary dramatically between individuals. Even healthy adults show wide differences. Why? Because insulin sensitivity differs. Muscle mass differs. Liver glucose output differs. Your body is not identical to someone else's. This is why some people tolerate bananas easily. Others spike from half. Neither is wrong, they're just different. The microbiome factor. Your gut bacteria influence how carbohydrates are processed. Certain gut profiles extract glucose more aggressively. Others slow digestion. Your microbiome changes with diet history, antibiotic use, age, inflammation, which means your fruit tolerance can change over time. Static charts don't capture dynamic biology. Stress and sleep matter too. Poor sleep increases insulin resistance the next day. Chronic stress raises cortisol. Cortisol increases blood sugar, so a fruit that caused no issue last week may spike you after a bad night's sleep. The fruit didn't change. Your hormonal environment did. This is why blood sugar control isn't just about food, it's about physiology. What this means for you: use the GI list as a guide, not a rulebook. Start with lower GI fruits. Monitor your response. Adjust based on your numbers. If you use a CGM, watch 1 hour post-meal, 2 hour post-meal. Return to baseline time. If you don't use a CGM, use structured fingerstick testing occasionally when introducing new fruits. Data removes fear. Guessing increases it. Who should pay extra attention? Be more cautious if you have a 1C above target. Experience frequent spikes over 180 milligrams per deciliter. Use rapid-acting insulin. Have reactive hypoglycemia. Are newly diagnosed and still stabilizing. For you, personalization matters even more. Stability first, experimentation later. What doctors see in practice. Clinicians often observe that patients who personalize their fruit intake instead of blindly avoiding fruit achieve better long-term adherence, less dietary burnout, more stable glucose patterns. Because restriction isn't sustainable, strategic inclusion is. Glycemic index is a tool, not a verdict. You don't manage diabetes with charts alone. You manage it by understanding your body's response. Fruit isn't good or bad. It's contextual, and context is personal. Final takeaway: fruit isn't the enemy, unawareness is. Fruit did not cause diabetes. Fruit does not automatically spike blood sugar, and fruit does not need to be feared, but fruit does need to be understood. You don't fix blood sugar by eliminating everything sweet. You fix it by controlling the response. Let's recap. Low GI fruits, cherries, grapefruit, apples, pears, are your safest foundation. Moderate GI fruits, berries, oranges, offer metabolic benefits when portioned properly. Higher GI fruits, banana, mango, pineapple, require structure, not avoidance. Pair fruit with protein or fat. Eat whole fruit, not juice. Monitor your personal response. It's not about banning foods, it's about building predictable glucose patterns. Tonight, start with one change. Choose one fruit from Tier 1. Pair it properly and check your numbers. Data builds confidence. Confidence builds consistency. And consistency improves A1C. Small changes, strategically applied, repeated daily. That's how blood sugar improves, not through fear, but through control. If this guide helped you, save it. Share it with someone managing diabetes, and start testing what works for you. Comment below, which fruit always causes a spike for you? Let's discuss why in the comments. Your numbers can improve, your plate can stay colorful, and fruit can stay in your life intelligently. Thanks for watching.